Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to talk to everybody tonight about codes. We always have this problem with language and how to read it and this and that. So I wanted to get on and try to hopefully explain the codification of languages. Where did it come from? How did we decide what to write and what to use as symbols and this and that? And so I want to start out with the basic simple things. I tell everybody everything is mathematical. All language is mathematical. And I'm going to switch the camera around here so we can show you this here. If anybody's familiar with that, that's three basic elements in life: a triangle, a square, and a circle. You notice they all fit within each other, and they all make little different shapes within them. And when it comes to language, if we do any study on the archaic languages, we see all kinds of funny symbols and stuff. And they get them from drawing shapes and then using right angles, things like that. And as we saw here, I'm going to go ahead and just switch back and just leave it on the... as we see here, there's all kinds of right angles in there, different degrees and everything. And when it comes down to the basic simplicity of it all, if we take all 26 letters of the alphabet except for the Z, so leaving 25 letters, and we draw out a graph 5 by 5, and notice how all the edges are open, we can distinguish a numbering system to code our alphabet. Now, along with that, we can also use a shaping system in order to write code. Like that. That's a code. And basically what we're doing is using a graph like this. Now my particular graph, I've split it up. I've got 3 graphs. I've got a 4 by 4, a 3 by 3, and then a single column of 3 squares. And I'll show you what I did here. Oh, darn it. Okay, so you got my first graph is a 4 by 4, and it's got A through P. And my second graph is a 3 by 3, and it's got Q through Y. And of course that leaves us with Z. So we got Z in a 3-column set of squares, and then you notice the top is a hyphen and the bottom is a full colon stop, or a colon full stop. And what I want you guys to do is, never mind this one at the bottom for now, but if you get a chance, or maybe I'll take a picture and post this, but that right there is my own little thing, according to my code here. And I'm going to show you by adding the dots, because I'm sure you're probably not familiar with them dots. You don't see them anywhere. Well, if we look at this first letter, symbolized right there, you see it's a 3-sided square with a dot up here. If we look up here on this graph and we see that 3-sided square, there's 2 of them that look just alike. But this one sits on top of this one. So the dot sits up on top. When you write an I, the dot would sit on the bottom, like the second one. So this symbolizes the letter E. This, of course, symbolizes the letter I. It's the same shape with the dot on the bottom. And notice, they're both on the outside. They're both on the outside because I've got two different graphs, and therefore I'm going to end up with another one here. And then same with these corners. Same with this one here. I've got 4 internal squares. And so on the 4 internal squares, the F would be denoted by a dot up in the top right. The G would be denoted by, top left. The G would be denoted by a dot up in the top right. J would be bottom left. K would be bottom right. For the L, the dot wouldn't be on the interior, it would be on the exterior at the bottom. For the H, it would be exterior at the top. On the A, D, M, and P, there are no dots. Not on this one. On this one, since we have duplicates of these corners, A is duplicate to the Q. On the Q for this square, we would go ahead and put a dot right up in the upper right hand corner. W, we would put a dot in the bottom left corner. S would be in the top right corner. Y would be in the bottom left corner. T, the dot is going to be in the middle as opposed to the bottom or the top. T, the dot goes in the middle. Same with this U here. Instead of the dot going in one of the corners, the dot would go in the middle. V, the dot would go in the middle. R, the dot would go at the top in the middle. X would go at the bottom in the middle. And then of course we have each one of these squares would just symbolize their own. The Z, when we come to Z, we just don't include the Z in the box. It's an empty box. We denote Z. So when we get back down to the code, we know the first one was E, second one is I. This letter would be, bottom right hand corner would be N. E-I-N, hyphen, and then we've got to find an internal square with the dot on the right, top left. So we need to find the internal square on the top left. The internal square, top left, is F. And then we find a bottom square with the dot on the right. We know the X is going to be in the middle, so it's going to be to this one, to the left or the right. That next letter is going to be O. So now we have F-O. This one here, we look up here, it's in the middle. The dot is in the middle. So we look up here to this scale, and there's the R. So that's F-O-R. E-I-N hyphen F-O-R hyphen. This letter here, it's in the middle, so we're going to go to the second one. That's going to be T. The next one is an empty top left corner. So we go to the empty top left corner, A. So now we have T-A. This one here is in the middle, so it's going to go to this one. And the middle is going to be the X, because it's bordered 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, dot. And we saw this one was A, and we have X, and then we have an identical one, so we know that one's A as well. T-A-X-A. And this one is wrong. This one, that one there is wrong. That one should be a T instead of an X. So we have T-A-X-A-T. And then we have a three-sided with a dot on the bottom. Three-sided with a dot on the bottom is I. So So we have an I, and then we have three-sided with the dot on the bottom right. Three-sided bottom dot on the bottom right would be O. And then bottom left would be N. T-A-X-A-T-I-O-N, full stop, colon. So, that's the basic simple graph of a chart that you can do to make your own code. And here's one that's commonly used. AB, you notice there's two letters in that square. CD, two letters there. EF, two letters there. So we end up with all letters in the alphabet, 26 of them, but we got two different ways to describe them. So I'm going to do something real quick, show you. This shouldn't take me too long here. Okay. If we look at that right there, remember that. It's a real simple one to remember. All the letters I used are going to be in that one. And if we look at that, this first letter here is this top right corner. Notice there's no dot in it. This one here again is the top left corner. So again, it's the top left corner, but notice there's a dot in it. The one without the A or without the dot is going to signify the first letter. The one with the dot signifies the second letter. So we have A, B, and this one here is a square with a dot in the middle, so and that's wrong. It should just be an empty square to denote the I. See, even I make mistakes. So we've got A, B, and never mind that dot, that's just a blank square, I, and then we've got an empty three-sided going to the left. So we look up here at the empty three-sided, it's going to denote the first letter because there's no dot, so that's going to be a G. So we have A, B, I, G, and then there's that A again, just the upper left-hand corner, and then we have three-sided pointing down with a dot. So we go up here to the three-sided pointing down, and it's a P, because it's denoting the second one with the dot. So we have the down with the dot, that's a P. There's another one, so that's another P. And then we've got an open-sided, or three-sided open to the right with a dot. So we go to the three-sided open to the right, and it's going to be an L. And then we've got the upper right-hand corner with no dot, which means it's going to signify the first letter. That's an E. So that there says A, B-I-G, big, A-P-P-L-E, a big apple. And that's as simple as it gets, folks, in writing code. So when we want to use these letters, instead of using squares, we would use triangles. Pen's going out. And that's why sometimes you read some of that old archaic language and it looks odd, but yet you can almost recognize some of it there. That's the basics of any kind of language, and it's all broken down into numbers, all mathematical in how many symbols you've got to that you're using for your language or whatever. Here in America, we use 26 letters, plus we've got all kinds of punctuation marks and stuff. And it's just a matter of being able to write your own code, and it's pretty simple. So, hope that helps you guys understand a little bit more about what's going on with the language and how simple it is really to understand it. If you learn the origins of how it was even developed, maybe then you can get a better comprehension of how to speak it. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. Have a great night.